Welcome back to 1600 hours, 16 December 44, Axis turn 6 of 15. In the north, the 272nd battled out with their Greyhound nemesis. So 5 men, 13 vehicles. So it's been a long battle, but we've got the Greyhound disrupted and isolated, so it can't be too long. The regiment to the west of the 326th Div is consolidating its hold on the bridge and looking to surround this American unit. This unit to the south of the 326th position, we're giving it some artillery treatment as we need to get rid of this guy with the impending arrival of the SS divisions along the road. In line with that, this anti-tank gun, I'd prefer to actually move him off the road into the forest, but I can't this turn, so hopefully next turn I can shove him into a forest hex. So it's out of the way. That one guy must have wondered what happened with 33 armoured vehicles shooting at him. And once again we look to put more pressure on this American unit in the trench. So the theme of clearing this road continues. Now further to the south with our 277th, I was interested here in trying to get these artillery units to move off the road. So unfortunately you have to put them in transport mode. I split them up here, and then hopefully in the next turn I can then drive them into a forest hex where they can go back and set up again. So the theme of clearing roads continues. Further to the south we take on this guy in the trench. What I haven't shown you is some preliminary artillery bombardment of this hex. So this is the whole theme of the turn. Just keep pushing the Americans away from the road so that the upcoming 12th SS and 1st SS Panzer divisions can access the Elsenborn side of the forest. Meanwhile down south, the push to the west, or to Elsenborn from the southwest, continues as we emerge from the forest into the open area. As much as possible we'd like to get the American units in the front line out of supply and pinned towards the east. Then hopefully our SS divisions will be able to crash through this region, which is pretty much what they did during the actual campaign. So now the all-important initial deployment of the 12th SS. I decided to send the reconnaissance unit off to the north to assist the 272nd, although I think we've pretty much got that grumpy greyhound under control. Then I grab Panzer Grenadier Battalion 25, and I decided to send them to help clear that American unit in the trench, which overlooks the secondary road just below the red units, or the 326th if you remember their formation. So in this case, quite handy having the Panzer Grenadiers in the lead there. So at this stage, their first mission will be to clear that American unit I mentioned. You can click and drag, of course. Just so for my particular idiosyncrasies tend to use this method. I decided to send them here around the North Road because it's just inevitable that when you do these deployments you're going to end up with congestion points. So I decided to preempt some of that. The 26th Panzer Grenadiers, I decided to send them around to the north with the reconnaissance unit to attack that 250 point victory location from the north. Two more units from the 26th. And from here went down south and then moved the 1st SS Panzer Div from their starting positions. So not too exciting, but an important part of the game. So turn 7 in the first of the night turns. It's a pretty important turn in many ways. You need to make sure your units are within command range of the headquarters for the upcoming midnight turn for the supply check. So we've dropped below 2-to-1 ratio of kills, and we're still hovering around that high 200 level. Of course, in night time the visibility drops down to 1 kilometre. So in the north, the 272nd pushes on in the hope of disposing of its adversary up here, the dreaded Greyhound. So we know it's down to less than 10 vehicles. And much to our chagrin, the dreaded thing holds on. Regiment 26 of the 12th SS Panzer Div continues its move towards the 272nd's position. And the 326th Volksgrenadiers continue their good work, although you can sort of sense that perhaps they're almost running out of puff. Remember this anti-tank gun from the last turn? Well, I get to move him off the road. Artillery, and now Regiment 25 of the 12th SS begin to join in with this battle for control over this section of the road by this quite stubborn American unit which refuses to be disrupted at this stage. The 12th SS Panzer Division was the infamous Hitler Jugend Division, which was, like most of the units in this campaign, was just about wiped out in Normandy. It suffered about 80% losses and then was reformed between Normandy and now in game terms. They stripped people from the Luftwaffe and Kriegsmarine to make up some of the numbers. But it was really a disaster for Germany that they had this policy. As you can imagine, for Russia and Germany in particular, the war caused a huge demographic trough. You can imagine literally millions of males disappearing from your economy, and that's millions of families if you look at it demographically. And in fact, for those with an economic interest, this demographic slump is even affecting Russia and Germany even to this day. I mean, Germany had to turn into like an immigration country, famously, like during the 80s, and a lot of that was due just to the lack of the generations coming through from all those that were killed. Of course, combine that with our low birth rates in Western countries, and the vibrations from the Second World War still can be felt today. A little bit of an aside. In some quarters this is known as the Battle for Elsenborn Ridge, which is basically the 500 point victory location. And in fact, in the actual battle over this time frame, the Americans actually managed to hold the 500 point victory location. The first SS Panzer Div, which is the blue one, or on the south part of the map, Joachim Peiper's Kampfgruppe Piper was part of the 1st SS, and they in fact exited off the western edge of this map and went on to commit all sorts of horrendous things. Of course, the Malmedy massacre is the one that comes to mind the most, although it wasn't actually didn't happen at Malmedy. It happened at another town starting with B. But anyway, as far as the scenario goes, it's a shame the designer didn't encourage the 1st SS down south to exit off the left-hand edge of the map to get some sort of points to encourage a mix of the historical outcome. I imagine with our right turn down south, that could affect, well, I'm hoping it affects the outcome, because I'm hoping to take the 500 point Elsenborn victory location. But it is a bit of a shame the German player couldn't get some sort of points for exiting and perhaps mimicking what actually happened during this time frame. The pink units, or the 277th, you can see they've made exceptionally good progress, and if that what's it, Regiment 27 up there from the 12th SS, the yellow units, they can drive fairly cleanly down this road and break through the forest. It'll be very interesting to see just what reserves the Americans have, and whether we end up in a big slog fest over these last half dozen hexes towards Elsenborn, which could be the case. Now, perhaps the game designers or the scenario designer has anticipated this sort of advance. For a reasonable advance for the Germans in the first half of the scenario and a slogfest in the second half, but we'll see, because I haven't peeked at the other side to see their order of battle or when they come on. It always makes it a little bit more interesting when you don't know those things, you play it for the first time. So as we are approaching halfway in the scenario, we're getting up to the real slogfest, but we'll soon see. We'll get our recon units eventually out front. We've got that initial 2 armoured units there to contend with. Try and pin these stragglers to the east and surround them so they can't interfere too much. So the scenario is quite nicely balanced at the moment as far as going forward. We just don't know. Will it go historical and the US hold Elsenborn, or will the constructor of this scenario allow us to take it? If you have a look at this photo, look at how pathetically young some of those faces are. This was a Panzer IV. Operating in with the 12th SS. So in the south of the map, we continue to advance and continue our theme of trying to push the retreating Americans back east, or at least stopping them from getting to the west of our lines. Obviously if we can, but really all we're really trying to do is make sure we keep those roads open. With this movement we secure the eastern end of that river, so it looks like we're going to be able to breach this area behind the river reasonably easy at this stage. Although on that high ground just to the north, it's probably a good spot for defenders. And M10, well, perhaps this is the start of the heavy American defence. The 1st SS continues to advance from its western starting point, so they hopefully will be in the battlefield in perhaps a couple of turns, given we have to negotiate the traffic and then get into position to attack. So that'll probably take us 2 or 3 turns for even the vanguard to get into position. I'll cut out the American turn, so we'll go straight to turn 8 once I've finished this turn. Excellent news that our bridge has been completed, so that'll speed up our advancing 12th SS. My general goal for these videos is somewhere between 30 minutes and 45 minutes. So I think I might park this one and come back to you with turn 8. So enjoy your gaming, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.